everybody. I'm Vlandis, and today I want to pick up where we left off last week with the major scale. So by this point, hopefully you know your major scales and all 12 keys, right? And all the fingerings to go along with it. And today we're gonna go move right along into the chords that live within this scale. So maybe the first thing we should ask ourselves is, why would I want to know what a chord is? Well, a lot of times music teachers like to use like vocabulary in discussion as a good analogy for music. So you might think of every note as being like the words, or you might think of musical phrases or melodies as being sentences, and you can compile a few phrases together and get a piece of music or a chapter of a book or a whole book, or however you want to break down that analogy, right? So where do chords play a role in here? Well, you might think of a chord as a topic of conversation. For example, let's say you run into your friends and they're all talking about their favorite ice cream flavors.
I like vanilla.
It might be a little bit strange to walk by and butt in to their conversation and start talking about that bird you saw this morning in your backyard.
Bluebird had blue wings.
Knowing your scales and knowing your chords is going to help you build your melodic and your harmonic vocabulary. So, you might be wondering then, what is a chord? The Nexus Musical Dictionary defines a chord as the simultaneous sounding of two or more notes. The On Music Dictionary goes on to say that most chords are based on triads or three notes with the interval of a major or minor third between the three notes. So now we know what a chord is, and we know that we definitely want to learn them. So let's get to work, starting with the chords in the key of C major. Last week we touched briefly on two different intervals. We talked about the whole step, C, D, C, and we talked about the half step, like maybe E, F, E, all in relationship to C though for that major scale sound. So today we got to break down two more intervals. You might remember them from that definition at the beginning of the video. We talked about major thirds and minor thirds. So remember, an interval in music is just the distance between two notes. And the first chord we're going to look at is C major.
La.
The first two notes in the C major chord are C and E. And if you put those two notes together, you hear. That interval is what we're going to call a major third, because in between C and E, you wind up with four half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. The top two notes of our C major chord are E and G. And those together give us. The interval this time between E and G is going to be what we call a minor third, because instead of four half steps, we're only going to have three half steps. And there's one more interval that we can examine on, which would be the outer two voices of this chord. We would have C and G. And that interval is 7 half steps, otherwise known as a perfect fifth. As we work our way up the scale, we're going to notice that most of these chords, actually all except for one chord, have a perfect fifth on the outside. And those are going to be the chords that we call either major or minor. Knowing what we know so far, let's take a moment to determine the qualities of each chord in the major scale. We've heard this first chord a few times already in the video, but let's see what C major looks like on the piano. So I have the notes C, E, and G. What we need to do is we need to figure out how far apart C is from the note E. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to count in half steps. So starting on C, we have 1 half step, 2 half steps, 3 half steps, 4 half steps all together. And if you recall what I said earlier, that means we have a major third. Now there's one more interval, going back to that On Music Dictionary definition for what a chord was, or what a triad was. We know that we have a third here and also a third here. So let's, while we're here, take a peek to see how far apart these two notes are. E going to G. So E, 1, 2, 3. We only have 3 half steps. formula for a major chord, you might say, is major third plus minor third equals major chord. Now, the point of this video isn't so much to learn how to build chords, but rather to examine the chords that already exist within the major scale. So, this was the chord starting on C. Let's check out the chord starting on D. Right off the bat, you might notice it has a little bit different of quality and sound. And the way we're going to check out this chord's actual quality is going to be by counting up the half steps again. So starting from D, moving to F, we'll find that we have 1, 2, 3 half steps. So we have 3 on the bottom and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top. Meaning we have a minor third on the bottom plus a major third on the top. And this chord is something we're going to call minor. It has a little bit of a, let's just say a darker context than the major chord did. Let's move up one more chord starting on E, and we're going to get a minor third on the bottom and a major third on the top, meaning we have a minor chord. So far we have C major, D minor, E minor, and now we're going to get to F. And by now maybe you can already hear that it's a major chord without even having to check it. But just to be safe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So major plus minor equals major. We have G major, A minor third plus a major third, so A minor. And now here's the last chord starting on B. We have B, D, and F. And something sounds just a little bit off about it. All of the other chords had a perfect fifth, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps in the outer voices. All of a sudden, this chord starting on B only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half steps in the outer voices. If you break down the thirds, you'll find that it is a minor third plus another minor third, and we're going to call this chord diminished. So a quick recap on all the chords in the major scale. We have C major, or 1. We have D minor, 2. 3 is E minor. 4 is F major. 5 is G major. 6 is going to be A minor. And 7 is B diminished. And then we wind up back on C major. This formula of major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, back to major, is going to exist in every single major scale because the interval structure in every major scale sounds the same.
I understand what I'm asking each of you to do sounds like a lot of work, and honestly, it can be. But the sooner you learn all your major scales, all those chords within those scales, the sooner you'll be able to bring those new tools into your compositions, into your improvisation, and even into reading sheet music. The beauty of all of this hard work is that once you've done it, nobody can take it away from you. All of these tools I'm offering you are to help you hear music, helping you to play music, helping you to think about music in a more clear manner. And isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? My advice to you is pick a couple keys a week and just work on maybe 2 to 3. Get those locked into your muscle memory, into your aural memory. And then the following week, add a couple more. You always want the new keys you learn to be as easy to play in as the keys you've previously learned. So I'll see you guys again next week, but until then, happy practicing.